Okay, so let's just jump right in. The date today is Tuesday, February 17th, 2026. A very specific date for a very specific reason.
Exactly. And if you're listening to this right now and you happen to be, say, in Silver Spring, Maryland, maybe on Colesville Road,
Right in front of the somewhere.
you're probably seeing a very, very long line of people. A lot of energy.
Oh, for sure. That kind of pre-show buzz, you can almost feel it through the microphone.
Yeah.
A line of people who are, getting ready to experience some serious emotions.
The kind of show where you know you're going to sing at the top of your lungs, probably cry a little, and definitely walk out with no voice. It's a catharsis.
Because right now, literally as we're talking, Lauren Spencer Smith is probably backstage at that very venue, doing her vocal warm-ups, getting ready to hit that stage.
It's another stop on this absolutely massive world tour she's on, The Art of Being a Mess.
And massive is the right word. She kicked this whole thing off way back in late 2025.
Yeah, she already did the whole European leg, then flew all the way down for the Oceania dates, and now she's, a couple of weeks into the big North American run.
Which really, I think, sets the perfect scene for what we want to unpack today. Because you look at an artist like her, selling out historic venues, and it's so easy to just slap a label on it.
Oh, 100%. The label is TikTok star.
Exactly. Oh, she's the girl who got famous on the internet, and you just assume that's the beginning and end of the story.
Which is, it's such a surface-level take. It's not wrong, but it's like describing an iceberg by only talking about the tip.
Right.
If you actually dig into the mechanics of her career, Lauren Spencer Smith is, for my money, the perfect case study of what I've started calling the modern hybrid pop star.
Hybrid. I like that. What do you mean by that exactly?
Well, think about the different paths to stardom, right?
Yeah.
There's the old way and the new way. She didn't just pick one. She didn't just sit in her room posting videos and, praying to the algorithm gods. She did the old school stuff. She went through the absolute meat grinder of reality TV with American Idol.
A path that has chewed up and spit out countless talented people.
Countless. And at the same time, she was chasing those traditional industry accolades like a Juno Award nomination in Canada. That's the old guard.
That's the industry telling you you're legitimate.
Exactly. But then she merged that with the new way. She harnessed the chaotic, completely unpredictable, but incredibly powerful engine of TikTok to build a fan base that is, it's clearly sustainable. She blended the music business of yesterday with the creator economy of today.
And that right there is our mission for this deep dive. We're calling it the anatomy of a modern breakout. We want to really explore this very specific, almost paradoxical question.
It's a great question.
How does a singer lose American Idol? And I mean really lose, not like a dramatic runner-up finish. She didn't even make the top 10.
Not even close.
Then she loses a Juno Award to a literal rock legend, Bryan Adams, a guy who was famous before she was born. And yet she still ends up here in 2026 with a string of multi-platinum global hits and a world tour that's selling out left and right. How does that happen?
It's fascinating because in a traditional sense, those are failures. Those are rejections that would derail a career before it even started.
But for her, it almost feels like rejection was the fuel.
It was the catalyst. So we need to trace that evolution. We're going to go all the way back to those early kind of scrappy unplugged albums and follow the thread right up to her 2025 sophomore record, The Art of Being a Mess.
So let's do it. Let's rewind the tape way, way back, before the tour buses, before the millions of streams, before any of it. Let's start with this myth of the overnight success.
The biggest myth in the music industry.
Because I think a lot of people see a viral star and just assume they materialized out of thin air yesterday with a hit song.
And it is almost never, ever true. And it is definitely not the case here. Her timeline actually begins across the Atlantic. Portsmouth, UK, back in 2003.
The British baby. I always have to remind myself that's part of her biography.
It is, but very briefly. She was born there, but the family, her parents and her brother, moved to Canada when she was just 3 years old.
And they settled on Vancouver Island.
Yep. Specifically in and around Port Alberni and Nanaimo, British Columbia.
Which is a beautiful part of the world. I mean, stunningly scenic, but also pretty quiet. Not exactly a bustling music metropolis.
Not at all. Which, you could argue, makes the noise she started making even more impressive. There was less distraction. And the narrative from the very beginning, and, we have to take this with a grain of salt because it comes from her proud parents.
Of course, the parental bias. Every kid is a prodigy to their parents.
Right. But their claim was that she was a musical prodigy. They said she was singing basically as soon as she could form sentences. Her first public performance in front of her school was at age 6.
Age 6. See, at age 6, I think my greatest accomplishment was learning to tie my shoes without making the bunny ears. I was definitely not commanding a stage.
She was already getting her reps in, getting comfortable in front of people. But even with that early start, there's a very specific moment that I think is the key to understanding her entire motivation as an artist. We have to talk about the Keith Urban catalyst.
Oh, this is such a great story. It really does sound like a scene from a movie. This is 2014, right?
2014, so she would have been, what, 11 years old?
Just a kid.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, at 11, most of us are using YouTube to watch cartoon clips or, I don't know, funny cat videos.
Sure.
She joins YouTube for a very specific purpose, to post an audition for a contest. And the contest prize is, well, it's pretty spectacular.
It wasn't a $50 gift card, that's for sure.
Not even close. She ends up winning this contest. And the prize is the chance to perform on stage, live, with Keith Urban.
The country music superstar Keith Urban.
The one and only. So I want you to just picture this scene for a second. You're 11 years old, you're from a pretty small town on an island. And suddenly, you are standing on a massive festival stage, under the bright lights, next to one of the biggest names in music.
With a real sound system, a real band, and thousands of people staring back at you.
The roar of that crowd. That has to fundamentally change you. It has to rewire your brain chemistry at that age.
I can't even imagine. It must have been terrifying and exhilarating all at once.
And it was. She has said in interviews, very explicitly, that this was the exact moment she decided, okay, I'm going to sing forever. It stopped being a hobby. It stopped being just something she was good at.
It became the mission.
It became the singular goal.
Yeah.
Because it validated the dream in a way that singing in your bedroom or even in a school auditorium never could. It made the fantasy feel real and, more importantly, attainable.
And she didn't just rest on that one moment. That just lit the fire. She kept grinding away for years after that.
Absolutely. The next big marker comes in 2019. She records a cover of Always Remember Us This Way.
The Lady Gaga song from A Star Is Born.
Which, we should point out, is a vocalist song. That is a technical and emotional mountain to climb. You cannot phone that in. You can't fake your way through those notes. It requires immense power, control, and vulnerability.
And her version goes viral.
It does. It catches the attention of all people, Steve Harvey.
The TV host.
Yep. He sees the video, is blown away, and invites her to perform on his talk show. So now she's getting that mainstream national television visibility. She's leveling up.
But this is the part of her early career that I find so fascinating, and I feel like it gets completely glossed over in her biography, the Juno Awards.
Oh, it's the most telling detail of her entire pre-fame career. It's the key that unlocks everything.
Okay, so break it down. In 2019, she puts out a live album. It's called Unplugged Volume 1.
And let's be clear about what this was. This was an independent release. It was raw. It was just her and a microphone, basically. No giant production budget, no layers of auto-tune, just pure vocal performance.
Just the talent.
Just the talent. And then, in 2020, the nominations for the Juno Awards come out. Now, for any of our listeners who aren't familiar, the Junos are Canada's version of the Grammys. It is the absolute highest honor in Canadian music.
A huge deal. And she gets a nomination.
She does. And here's the unbelievable part. She wasn't nominated for, like, Children's Album of the Year. She wasn't nominated for Breakthrough Artist or some sort of youth category.
Which would have made sense. She was a teenager.
She was 16 years old.
Uh-huh.
She gets nominated for Adult Contemporary Album of the Year.
Adult Contemporary. That's the category for, like, Michael Bublé and Celine Dion.
That's exactly who it's for. It's for established, mature vocalists. And get this, look at who she was competing against. She ended up losing the award to Bryan Adams for his album Shine a Light.
Bryan Adams,
Yeah.
the summer of '69 guy. The man is a Canadian rock institution. He's a legend.
So think about the optics of that for a second. You have this 16-year-old girl with a self-released, stripped-down live album, and the Canadian music industry, the so-called gatekeepers, are putting her in the same category, on the same level, as a rock icon who's been selling out arenas since the 1980s.
The fact that she lost is completely irrelevant.
It means nothing. The win was the nomination. The win was being in that room. It signaled that the industry wasn't viewing her as a kid or a novelty act. They were hearing a vocal maturity that was miles beyond her biological age. They treated her as a peer to Bryan Adams.
It's incredible validation. It's the industry saying, we see you, you're the real deal. But it didn't translate to mainstream fame just yet.
No, it was an insider nod, a critical darling moment. To get the public fully on board, She decided to take a shot at the biggest, loudest, most well-known machine in the music business,
She decided to audition for American Idol
the great star-making machine. Or, as it turned out, the great star detouring machine.
because she landed on season 18.
The infamous season 18, the year 2020.
Ah, the pandemic season.
Exactly. The context here is everything. She competes in the season, she does well in the early rounds, and just as things are supposed to ramp up, the world shuts down. COVID-19 hits.
So all those big, glossy Hollywood studio shows, gone.
Canceled. The lights went out on the big stage. There's no live audience, no band, no spectacle.
So instead of the glamour and the makeup chair and the giant stage, she's performing from where?
She's performing from her father's house back in Port Alberni.
And I remember seeing those clips. She had that beautiful view of Sproat Lake in the background.
It was picturesque, for sure. It looked great on a TV screen.
Mm.
But as a performer, it has to be an energetic nightmare.
What do you mean?
Well, performers feed off the energy of a crowd. You hit a big note, you hear the applause, you feel that wave of emotion coming back at you, and it fuels the next part of your performance.
Right, it's a feedback loop.
It's a total feedback loop. But she was singing her heart out, hitting these massive, powerful notes to an iPad propped up on a stand. There's no applause, there's no roar, there's just silence after the music stops. It's got to be incredibly disorienting.
And despite those weird circumstances, she was really good on the show. Let's look at her track record, because she wasn't just some filler contestant who got cut early. She came in strong.
Very strong. Her audition was What About Us by Pink.
Which is a beast of a song. And the judges put her through immediately.
Yep, no hesitation. Then you get to the Hollywood rounds, which are designed to separate the good singers from the great ones. And look at her song choices.
She went for the jugular.
She really did. She sang Because of You by the original Idol, Kelly Clarkson. She sang Set Fire to the Rain by Adele. She sang The Joke by Brandi Carlile.
Okay, those are not safe choices. Those are what you'd call high difficulty level songs.
They're vocal Olympic events. You do not attempt an Adele song on national television unless you are supremely confident in your technical ability. You will get exposed very, very quickly if you're not up to it.
But she nailed them. She kept advancing. For the showcase round to get into the top 40, she did Respect by Aretha Franklin.
Another titan. She was clearly positioning herself as this generation's powerhouse vocalist. She was making a statement with every song choice.
And it worked, up to a point. She makes it to the top 20 round. This is where America starts voting. And she sings Mama Knows Best by Jessie J.
A big, sassy, up-tempo number.
And that was it. The end of the road.
Eliminated. The screen goes black on her Idol journey. She doesn't make the top 10. She barely cracks the top 20. For most people, that's the end of the story.
But this brings us to what you called the Idol paradox.
Yes. And I think this is maybe the most crucial pivot in her entire career. Because on the surface, getting eliminated from a competition is a failure. You want to win the confetti, the recording contract, the whole package.
That's the dream they sell you.
It's the dream they sold in 2005. But in the 2020s, being eliminated early can be a massive, massive blessing in disguise.
Oh, so.
Think about the winner's contract. If you win American Idol, you are often locked into these incredibly specific, very restrictive recording contracts. The show's production company, 19 Entertainment, they effectively own your image. They dictate your sound. They choose your first single. They decide your release schedule.
You're an employee of the franchise.
You're playing the role of the Idol winner. You have very little creative freedom for that first album cycle. And if that first single doesn't hit, you can get dropped pretty quickly.
But if you get cut in the top 20...
You're a free agent. You've gotten all this primetime television exposure. Millions of people have seen your face and heard your voice. You've built a small but dedicated fan base. But you have zero contractual obligations. You can go home to Port Alberni and do whatever you want, musically.
You get the marketing without the handcuffs.
Precisely. And she's in very good company here. The source material for our deep dive even lists Benson Boone as an Idol alumnus. He didn't win either. He actually quit the show.
And he's had massive hits. Beautiful Things was everywhere.
Exactly. It's almost become a modern badge of honor to lose Idol and then go on to have a bigger career than the person who won your season. It proves you didn't need the machine to validate you.
Which leads us perfectly into the next chapter of her story. Because she took that freedom, that lack of handcuffs, and she sprinted with it. This is the moment where everything changes.
This is the shift from the gatekeepers, the TV judges, the record execs, to the people. This is January 2022.
And the song is Fingers Crossed.
I mean, even just saying that title, the chorus immediately starts playing in my head. It's that infectious.
But the way this song became a hit, this wasn't a label spending millions on a radio campaign. This wasn't a boardroom decision.
Not at all. It started as a demo, a snippet. She posted a clip of the song on TikTok before it was even finished, before it was properly produced or mixed.
Just a raw, emotional verse and chorus.
Just her and a piano, basically. And that one clip, it just exploded. You get 30 million views, 30 million people in her comment section screaming, "When can we hear the full song? Please release this. Where's the Spotify link?"
That is an insane amount of pent-up demand. That's not just interest. That's leverage.
That's all the leverage in the world. So by the time she finally dropped the full finished version of the song, the dam just burst.
The numbers were staggering.
They were. The song did 10 to 15 million streams within its first 12 hours of being released.
12 hours. That's Taylor Swift-level engagement. That's the kind of debut you see from a global superstar, not a so-called idol reject.
It was completely undeniable. And the charts reflected that raw power immediately. It rocketed into the top 20 here in the U.S. It hit the top 10 in the U.K., Australia, New Zealand, Ireland, all over the world.
And the certifications just started pouring in. Multi-platinum in Canada, I think it's 3x platinum there now.
2x platinum in Australia.
Yep.
Platinum in the U.S. and the U.K. It was a monster.
And the most important part of this from a business perspective is that initially this was a self-released track.
She did it herself. She owned it. Later, of course, she partnered with Island Records and Republic Records to handle the massive global distribution and the big radio push. But the spark, the proof of concept, that was all her.
She basically walked into the record label offices and said, "Look at this data. This song is already a hit. You don't have to guess. You don't have to roll the dice."
Let's help me make it bigger. It completely flips the power dynamic in the music industry. The artists can now prove their viability before they ever sign a deal.
Of course, whenever a young female artist writes a huge emotional heartbreak ballad that blows up on social media, the comparisons are inevitable.
Oh, immediately. The first thing everyone said was, "Is this the next Olivia Rodrigo?"
That was the dominant narrative for a while, right?
And it makes sense on the surface. They both tapped into that raw, unfiltered, almost diary entry style of songwriting that resonated so deeply with Gen Z, that driver's license energy.
The specificity of the lyrics.
Yes. The feeling that you're hearing a real, painful story. But I've always felt Lauren brings a different vocal texture to the table. That power ballad training from her Idol days, that adult contemporary gene we talked about from the Junos, it gives her a slightly different, more muscular vocal approach.
A bit more old school belter in her DNA.
Exactly. But after a hit that big, the pressure is immense. The big fear is always the same for a new artist.
The one-hit wonder question.
The dreaded sophomore single curse. It is one of the hardest hurdles to clear in a music career. You've captured the world's attention for a fleeting moment. Can you hold it? Can you prove it wasn't a fluke?
So the calendar flips to April 2022. She needs a follow-up, and she drops the song Flowers.
Now, just to be clear for everyone listening, this is not the Miley Cyrus song Flowers.
Right. Very important distinction. Different song. Completely different vibe.
But this song, if we're really going to do a deep dive, we need to stop and analyze the lyrics here, because she did something incredibly clever and honestly very brave from a songwriting perspective. She wrote a song about a trauma response.
Explain that, because if you just listen casually, it sounds like a sweet love song.
It is, but it's a love song with a dark undercurrent. The whole concept is that she's finally in a new, healthy relationship. Her new boyfriend buys her flowers.
A classic romantic gesture.
Should be. He brings them home randomly just to be nice. It's a Tuesday. Here's some flowers, because I was thinking of you.
And that should be a beautiful moment.
It should be. But her immediate gut reaction isn't joy or gratitude. It's panic. It's anxiety.
Why?
Because in her previous toxic relationship, she was conditioned to believe that flowers were only ever an apology. The ex-boyfriend only bought her flowers after he messed up, after he cheated, after he lied. Flowers meant, "I'm sorry."
So when she gets flowers for no reason...
Her brain short-circuits, goes into overdrive. What did you do? Why are you apologizing? What aren't you telling me? She can't accept the gesture at face value because of the emotional scars from her past.
Wow. That hits hard. That is such a specific and painfully relatable psychological knot to untangle.
And that specificity is exactly why it worked. It wasn't another generic "I'm in love" song. It was a song about the post-traumatic stress of a bad relationship bleeding into a new, good one. She even told People magazine it was one of her favorite songs she's ever written. And you can feel that personal connection.
And the audience clearly felt it too. It proves she wasn't a fluke.
Not at all. Flowers went on to be certified platinum in Canada, the U.S., and Australia. It solidified her place. It showed she had more stories to tell.
And she just kept building on that honest, sad girl pop energy. Later in 2022, she released Narcissist,
Another fantastic one-word, straight-to-the-point title.
which also picked up a bunch of gold and platinum certifications. And then in 2023, she started exploring themes beyond just romantic heartbreak. She released 28 and Best Friend Breakup.
And Best Friend Breakup is such an important song. It's a topic that is so under-discussed in pop music. We have a billion songs about breaking up with a boyfriend or girlfriend.
A trillion, maybe.
But losing a best friend, that platonic heartbreak, for a lot of people, that hurts just as much, if not more sometimes. It's a completely different kind of grief, and she tapped right into that vein.
She was also smart about building a community around her. She started doing collaborations. She jumped on the song Fantasy with Gail and M. Bayhold.
That's like the holy trinity of angry, heartbroken Gen Z pop right there.
Yeah.
A very specific and powerful corner of the musical universe.
And she did Friends Don't with Alexander Stewart. She was making it clear she was part of a scene. She was an artist with a growing catalog, not just a viral moment.
And that is the absolute crucial step in building a long-term career. You have to transition from being a singles artist to being an album artist.
Which leads us to the big projects, the full bodies of work. On July 14th, 2023, we finally get her debut studio album, Mirror.
Yep, 15 tracks. It had the big hits on it, of course. Fingers Crossed, Flowers, Narcissist. It was released under 3 named productions, but licensed out to Island and Republic for the global muscle.
And how did it do commercially on the charts?
It did really well for a debut. It peaked at number 4 on the official UK albums chart, which is a huge accomplishment. It cracked the top 50 here in the US on the Billboard 200. It established her as a serious, viable album artist. It proved her fans would show up for a full package, not just a 30-second TikTok clip.
But that was 2023. We're in 2026 now, which means we have to talk about the follow-up. The sophomore album, The Art of Being a Mess.
Which was released on June 27, 2025. So as of this conversation, it's been out for about 8 months.
I love that title, The Art of Being a Mess. It feels so honest, so self-aware. It feels like a direct continuation of the themes in her singles.
It absolutely is. But if we're being objective and just looking at the data, the album had a different kind of reception than Mirror did.
How so? A little quieter.
A bit, yeah. On the official charts, at least. It reached number 95 in Australia. In the UK, it didn't crack the main official albums chart top 100, though it did hit number 49 on the UK album sales chart, which is a slightly different metric.
Okay, so if you're a record executive just staring at a spreadsheet, you might look at those numbers and think, uh-oh, the momentum is slowing down, sophomore slump.
You might think that. But this is where we have to analyze what success really means in the modern music industry. Chart peaks for albums.
Yeah.
They just don't tell the whole story anymore.
They're not the ultimate metric.
Not like they were 20 years ago. You can have a lower charting album, but have a rabidly dedicated fan base that streams consistently and, more importantly, buys concert tickets. And the singles from this era, like Pray from 2025 and If Karma Doesn't Get You, I Will, they kept the conversation going.
If Karma Doesn't Get You, I Will is an all-time great song title, by the way.
It really is.
Yeah.
It shows she hasn't lost that lyrical edge. But you're right, the real proof of her status in 2026 isn't a number on a Billboard chart. It's the name on the marquee outside the venue. It's the sold-out sign.
Which brings us full circle right back to the tour, the global stage. Because charts are just numbers on a screen. Touring is real human beings in a real room, spending their real money to scream your lyrics back at you.
And in that arena, she is absolutely winning.
Let's just look at the growth trajectory there, because it's pretty stunning. Her first big headlining run was the Mirror Tour back in 2023.
Yep. First time seeing her name at the top of the ticket. She went all over North America, Europe, Oceania. But look at the venues she was playing. She played the Paradise Rock Club in Boston.
Which is a legendary venue, a classic rock club.
Legendary, but it's a club. It holds, what, maybe 900 people if you pack them in?
Yeah.
She played Irving Plaza in New York City, the Flex in Vienna. These are fantastic historic rooms, but they are stepping stones. They're the first rung on the ladder.
Okay, so now fast forward to today. The Art of Being a Mess World Tour that's happening right now through 2025 and 2026.
The scale-up is just. It's undeniable. She started in Europe in September of 25, playing bigger rooms in Madrid, Barcelona, Brussels. Then she flew down to Oceania in November. Big shows in Sydney, Melbourne, Auckland.
And now this current North American leg, it just started earlier this month on February 4th, 2026. And look at where she chose to kick it off. The Ryman Auditorium in Nashville, Tennessee.
The mother church of country music.
You do not get to play the Ryman by accident. That is hallowed ground. That is where Johnny Cash and Patsy Cline stood. That is a stage with a soul.
Booking that venue is a statement. It sends a message to the entire industry. It says, I am not just a TikTok star. I'm a serious musician. I'm a vocalist. I belong on this historic stage.
And it's not just the Ryman. She's hitting other major iconic venues. The House of Blues chain, the Wiltern in Los Angeles, the Queen Elizabeth Theater up in Vancouver.
And tonight, as we've said, February 17th, the Fillmore in Silver Spring. These are significant multi-thousand capacity theaters.
The trajectory is just wild when you lay it all out like that. Think about it. We started this whole deep dive talking about a 6-year-old girl performing in front of her elementary school.
Then a teenager singing to an iPad by a lake for a TV show she was about to be eliminated from.
And now, just a few years later, she is the headliner, commanding these revered stages like the Ryman and the Wiltern.
It completely validates the entire journey. It proves that the idol paradox was real. She didn't need the confetti drop on national television. She didn't need a panel of celebrity judges to tell her she was good enough.
She just needed the songs and a direct line to the people who wanted to hear them.
Exactly. The internet allowed her to build her own stage, and now she's taking that show to the most famous stages in the world.
So let's try to wrap all this up. What does it all mean? What's the big takeaway here?
Well, if we just summarize the journey in one breath. 6-year-old dreamer becomes a YouTube cover artist, becomes an American Idol reject, becomes a TikTok sensation, and finally becomes a global touring force with 2 studio albums under her belt.
The so what? For me, the reason this story matters is the theme of resilience.
Oh, 100%. It's about a fundamental refusal to take no for an answer from the traditional systems. The Juno Committee said, no, Bryan Adams wins. American Idol voters said, no, you're not in our top 10.
And instead of quitting, she just found a different route.
She did. She let the audience be the ultimate judge. She bypassed the industry gatekeepers and went straight to the people on their phones.
And the people voted. They voted with their thumbs, with their streams, and now, most importantly, they are voting with their wallets for concert tickets.
And that leads me to the final thought I want to leave our listeners with. I want to circle back one last time to that album title, The Art of Being a Mess.
It really is a provocative idea, isn't it?
It is, because think about the era we live in. Social media, especially Instagram, is this highly curated, perfect-looking highlight reel of everyone's lives. The pressure is immense to look like you have it all figured out, like you're winning all the time.
The illusion of perfection?
Exactly. But Lauren Spencer Smith's entire career, her entire success, seems to suggest the complete opposite is true.
What do you mean?
I mean, she is succeeding because she is admitting she's a mess. Her art is about being a mess. She is winning because she's willing to write a song, admitting she gets anxious when someone buys her flowers. She's willing to admit she's heartbroken over a friend. She's willing to say out loud, I don't have all the answers, and things are kind of messy right now.
So in a world that's selling fake perfection, radical vulnerability is the killer app. It's the most valuable currency.
I really think it is. I don't think people want perfect, untouchable idols anymore. They want mirrors. They want to see themselves, their own messy feelings and complicated lives reflected back at them in the art they consume. And Lauren Spencer Smith is a very, very clear mirror for millions of people. She makes their own mess feel not just acceptable, but like a work of art.
That is a beautiful thought to end on. So if you are lucky enough to be in Silver Spring tonight, go enjoy the show at the Fillmore. Scream your heart out for all of us.
And if you're not, check the tour dates. She might be coming to a city near you. I think she's got Philadelphia, New York, and Boston coming up just in the next week alone.
Definitely don't miss it. Thanks for taking the time to unpack all of this with us.
Always a pleasure.
We'll see you on the next Deep Dive.
Welcome to the debate. Today is Tuesday, February 17th, 2026. It is just a miserable rainy night out here on the East Coast. But if you look at the sidewalk outside the Fillmore in Silver Spring, Maryland, the weather is completely irrelevant. I mean, the line has been wrapping around the block since this afternoon. They're all huddled under umbrellas, singing songs in the rain, waiting for Lauren Spencer Smith. She is deep into the North American leg of her The Art of Being a Mess world tour, and the energy out there is, well, it's electric.
And that wet, enthusiastic line is exactly why we're here. Because if you were to look solely at, the music industry charts for the last 12 months, you'd assume that line just shouldn't exist. We're looking at one of the most fascinating paradoxes in modern music.
It really is a paradox, and it brings us to the core question we're tackling today. Is Lauren Spencer Smith the prototype for a sustainable, modern pop career built on authentic songwriting and a direct-to-fan-base connection? Or, as the data might suggest, does her trajectory from her massive 2022 breakout to right now represent a viral moment that's facing a severe case of diminishing returns? I take the position that Lauren has successfully executed the hardest pivot in the industry, going from a viral TikTok sensation to a legitimate, hard-ticket touring artist with a career that's going to outlast the platform that launched her.
And I look at the exact same timeline and I just see a warning sign. I believe the data, specifically the stark commercial drop-off between her debut era and the 2025 sophomore album, indicates a failure to scale. I think we are watching an artist struggle to maintain relevance once the algorithm finds its new shiny object. To me, the numbers tell a story of a shrinking footprint, not a deepening foundation.
I think you're misinterpreting what footprint even means in 2026. But let's start at the beginning, because to understand where she is tonight at the Fillmore, you have to look at the hustle that predated all the fame. There's this misconception that Lauren Spencer Smith was just born on TikTok.
That is the narrative, yeah. The girl who sang in her dad's truck.
Right, but that completely ignores a decade of groundwork. This is a woman who was grinding on YouTube as far back as 2014. She wasn't just singing in her bedroom, she was hustling for visibility. She actually got on stage with Keith Urban when she was still a kid. She released Unplugged Volume 1 in 2019. That album earned her a Juno Award nomination for Adult Contemporary Album of the Year.
A nomination she lost to Bryan Adams. Let's, keep the context clear. It was a pretty weak field that year.
Losing to Bryan Adams, a global legacy artist, when you are a teenager without a label, that is not a failure, that is proof of concept. It validates the talent. My point is, by the time she stood on the stage at the Ryman Auditorium earlier this month, that was February 4th, she had built a vocal engine that wasn't reliant on studio magic. She is selling out venues like the Fillmore tonight and the Brooklyn Paramount on the 20th because her songwriting resonates on a human level. She has what we call a sticky fan base. They aren't there because an algorithm told them to be. They're there because she articulated their own heartbreaks better than they could.
Sticky is a generous term for what might just be a niche. I don't deny the hustle, but let's look at the trajectory where it counts in the macroeconomic of music, mass consumption. Her rise was meteoric, absolutely. Fingers Crossed was a global smash in 2022. Top 10 in the UK, Australia, New Zealand. It hit number 19 in the US. It went multi-platinum. That is a massive peak. But the plateau that followed is undeniable, and frankly, it's steep.
Every artist plateaus after a breakout hit. That is just the nature of the beast.
But not like this. Her debut album, Mirror, from 2023, it charted at 45 in the US and 11 in the UK. Respectable, if a bit underwhelming for someone with that much hype. But then you fast forward to June 2025, just last year, with the release of The Art of Being a Mess. The drop-off isn't just a plateau, it is a cliff.
You're focusing on the Billboard 200 way too much.
The Billboard 200 is the record of record. The Art of Being a Mess did not enter the US Billboard 200 at all. It didn't enter the main UK albums chart. It peaked at number 49 on the sales chart. In Australia, where she was previously a top 10 artist, it scraped in at 95. When you compare her to Olivia Rodrigo, a comparison that was constantly made during her rise, you see one artist who bridged that gap to superstar and one who seems to be struggling to keep even the casual listener engaged. That looks like a career reliant on viral volatility, not broad industry support.
I think that comparison is lazy, and frankly, it misses the mechanics of how she broke through in the first place. You mentioned Olivia Rodrigo, but we need to address the elephant in the room regarding Lauren's specific path: American Idol.
Right. Season 18, in 2020. This is a crucial piece of the puzzle. She was eliminated in the top 20. And historically, Idol is a launch pad, but usually if you get cut that early, that's your ceiling. You become the girl who almost made it. It usually signals a limitation in mainstream appeal. The audience had a chance to vote, and, well, they didn't vote for her.
I would argue her inability to win over that broad television demographic foreshadowed the ceiling we are seeing now with her second album sales.
I just think that's a fundamental misunderstanding of how the modern music business works. Losing American Idol was the single best thing that could have happened to her. Think about the constraints of those reality TV contracts. They are draconian. They lock you into these 360 deals where the show owns everything for years. By being eliminated, she dodged that bullet.
She dodged the support system, too.
She dodged the shackles. She went back to Port Alberni, back to her father's house, and she took control of her own distribution. She pivoted to TikTok, which is a direct-to-consumer channel. When she teased Fingers Crossed, she got 30 million views on the demo before it was even released. She proved she understood her audience connection better than the traditional gatekeepers at Idol ever could. She didn't need the TV vote. She needed the data.
But does that authenticity scale? That's my issue. You mentioned the 30 million views. That is the definition of a viral moment. But viral moments are fleeting. We see this all the time. The micro-trend artists who blow up for 3 months and then just vanish. If we look at the music itself, we have to ask about the songwriting quality versus, formulaic themes. You champion her songwriting, but is she expanding her palette? Or is she just rewriting Fingers Crossed over and over again?
She is absolutely expanding. Look at Flowers from 2022. On the surface, people hear breakup song. But if you listen to the lyrics and read her interview, she explained that the title was a trauma response. It wasn't about a bad guy. It was about moving into a healthy relationship where a boyfriend bought her flowers just because, and her reaction was panic because she was so used to getting flowers as an apology. That is a sophisticated take on relationships. It's high emotional intelligence. That is why she has gold and platinum certifications. She isn't just writing, "He left me." She's writing, "This is how the damage lingers."
I admit that's a clever angle, but the execution feels kind of trapped in that sad girl pop trend that saturated the market in the early 2020s. Fingers Crossed, Flowers, Narcissist. The themes are repetitive, and the market seems to agree. You mentioned the certifications, but let's look at the trend line, because that's the only thing that matters. Fingers Crossed is 3x platinum in Canada, platinum in the US, Flowers is platinum. But then you get to Narcissist, which is gold in Canada but only silver in the UK. Then look at that part. It hit gold in Canada and Australia, sure, but globally, it peaked at 86 in Ireland and didn't touch the US Hot 100. The diminishing returns suggest that trauma response theme has a shelf life.
You're conflating mainstream radio hits with fan-base favorites. That part still resonated deeply with her core demographic. You don't need to be on the Hot 100 to be successful in 2026.
But a core demographic doesn't keep the lights on forever if it keeps shrinking. Let's really drill down on The Art of Being a Mess. This is the core of the debate for me. The album dropped in June 2025. It was a ghost town on the charts. If you are an artist who is supposedly sustainable, your sophomore album should at least chart in your primary markets. It missed the US Billboard 200 entirely. How do you spin that?
Because charts are a lagging indicator of cultural relevance, especially for a touring act. The charts measure passive listening. They measure how many times a song was put on a playlist by an editor at Spotify. They do not measure intent. The real metric, the only metric that matters for longevity, is the ticket. Can you move bodies into a room? Let's look at the itinerary for this world tour.
I'm listening.
She started this tour in Europe in September 2025. She played the Sala La Riviera in Madrid, the Columbia Hall in Berlin, the Eventim Apollo in London. These are legendary large-capacity venues. The Eventim Apollo holds over 5,000 people. And now, in 2026, she is doing a massive North American run. The Ryman Auditorium in Nashville is hallowed ground. You don't book the Ryman if you're a flop. You don't book the Brooklyn Paramount or the House of Blues in Boston if nobody cares. The fact that she is playing these rooms, despite the lack of radio play, proves my point. She has exited the viral rat race and entered the touring economy.
That's a compelling argument, but have you considered the economics of those tours? I mean, yes, she is playing these venues now, based largely on the goodwill of the debut and those viral hits. But touring cycles lag too. These bookings are often based on previous metrics. If the sophomore album didn't convert casual listeners into diehards, the next tour is where we'll see the shrinkage. The singles from the 2025 album, tracks like Pray, they barely made a dent on the New Zealand Hot Singles chart, let alone anywhere major. If the new music isn't bringing in new fans, the tour is just a nostalgia act for a viral moment that happened 4 years ago.
I see the data, but I interpret songs like Pray and Small differently. Those are intimate records. They are service pieces for the fans who have been there since the beginning. Lauren has successfully converted that viral traffic into a cult following. Think about the trajectory of artists like, say, Carly Rae Jepsen.
Oh, come on.
No, hear me out. Carly Rae Jepsen had Call Me Maybe, one of the biggest viral hits ever. The charts cooled off, she stopped hitting #1, but she became a critical darling and a massive touring force. She plays sold-out shows to a fervent fan base that screams every word. Lauren is following that path. She has industry respect. Remember, Steve Harvey spotted her talent back in 2019, way before TikTok. That foundational talent exists independent of trends. She's building a middle-class pop star career, which is actually healthier than being a flash-in-the-pan superstar who burns out.
I'm sorry, but I just don't buy the Carly Rae Jepsen comparison yet. Jepsen had a critical renaissance. Emotion is considered a modern classic. Lauren hasn't quite achieved that critical acclaim. And I worry about the cult argument. A cult following is great, but it usually requires a steady stream of new converts. The drop in streaming numbers, going from multi-platinum to barely charting, shows the funnel is broken. The casual audience, the millions who streamed Fingers Crossed because it was on their For You page, have moved on. They are not buying tickets to the Fillmore.
I believe there is enough of a core fan base. Look at the sheer volume of dates. She played nearly 30 dates in Europe last fall. She's playing nearly 30 dates in North America right now. That is a working musician. That is a career. She isn't chasing a #1 hit. She's chasing a 30-year career on the road. And frankly, the casual audience is worthless in the modern economy. They stream us on once, generating a fraction of a cent. A fan at the Fillmore buys a $50 ticket and a $40 t-shirt. One fan at a venue is worth 30,000 casual streamers. Lauren has optimized for the high-value fan.
Incredibly expensive. If you aren't selling out the room, you are losing money. With the album not charting, her leverage with promoters drops. She is 22 years old now. By the time she's 25, if she hasn't had another radio hit, will she be playing the Fillmore or will she be playing the club down the street?
She's only 22. That's the key. To be 22 and headlining the Wiltern, most artists would kill for that. She has time to reinvent. And unlike the Idol winners who are tied to a specific sound, she owns her lane. She can pivot.
Let's try to wrap this up, because I think we're looking at two different definitions of success. To summarize my position, while Lauren Spencer Smith is undeniably talented, the sharp decline in chart performance between Mirror and The Art of Being a Mess serves as a cautionary tale. It just illustrates the shelf life of TikTok fame. When the algorithm changes, if you haven't cemented yourself in the broader pop culture consciousness, the floor can drop out. I validate her talent, but I question the scalability of her career moving forward.
And I will maintain that she has successfully exited that viral rat race to become a career touring artist, which is a much healthier place to be. The fact that she is performing to thousands in Silver Spring tonight and will be in Philadelphia tomorrow, that matters more than a Billboard ranking. She has used the viral moment to build a real-world engine. The charts might say she is cooling off, but the box office says she's heating up.
It's certainly a pivot from pop star to touring act. Whether that's a voluntary pivot or one forced by the market, well, that remains to be seen.
A pivot that allows for longevity. And I think we can both agree that Lauren Spencer Smith represents a shift in how success is measured in the mid-2020s. Is it top 40 dominance, or is it the ability to sustain a global tour without radio support?
It's a fascinating disconnect. We have an artist who is statistically invisible on the album charts, but physically present in major venues worldwide. It challenges that old adage that content is king. Maybe connection is king?
Exactly. And we'll leave it to the listener to decide if the lack of chart-topping hits in 2025 matters when the venues are still full in 2026. Thank you for joining us on The Debate.
See you next time.